everybody. My name is Jamie with the cloud team here at JourneyTEAM, and we are excited to share a couple of really good updates to you guys for you guys to either look for, implement, or be aware of in the M365 space and Azure Cloud, Azure AD, etc. The number one right here is Azure AD branding options have been updated. We used to just be able to kind of control the login page. Now you can, the login dialog, I should say. Now you can control a lot more details about that page, including adding a header, a footer. You can do CSS styling on that page now. So there's a lot of things you can give to your end users and people that are logging into your system, whether it's more direction, more information, content that gives them links to help, that type of thing that's a little bit more easily accessible on the page. So very cool call out. We always recommend you add custom branding to your tenant because that helps your users understand that they're logging into the right place. While we know that can be spoofed on occasions, every little bit you can do helps. We know some customers that even rotate that maybe seasonally, so it's a little different every time, every couple of months, so the users are aware of that. Also adds a little bit of color and fun, right, when you're logging into the humdrum of your daily job, right? Number two, dynamic groups have the ability to be paused now for processing. We use dynamic groups a lot for licensing scenarios and some other things as well. The big one obviously always is licensing. And sometimes you need to make large, big swath changes to things where you may be adding 100 folks to a new dynamic group that's going to then apply a license or do something else that group does, give it a permission to something or something along those lines. You now have the ability, which you can see at the bottom of this little screenshot, to actually pause the processing for that group while you guys go through and make your changes, which is super helpful when you don't want to have things constantly going in and out of scope for something while you're doing, especially even testing, but definitely when you go into production. Number matching in Azure AD MFA push will be enabled by Microsoft this month. It may already be showing up in some of your tenants. I will be sharing some links in the chat here as soon as I'm done to this and several other things I'm going to be talking about here today so that you have direct information you can go get about this. But just know that we highly recommend enabling number matching in the near term for improved security on your sign-ins. Relevant things that this will affect SSPR, single sign-on password reset, combined registration scenarios, right? Even if you're using ADFS with an adapter, all those changes, you'll start seeing those as early as February 27th, I believe, is the date they're targeting there. And as those services deploy, what you'll have is some users may see the number match and others don't, which is why we recommend that you go ahead and start enabling that now and notifying your users you're going to enable this so that everyone is getting the same common scenario and you don't have some people getting the number and some people not. So be aware of that. I'll share a link in the chat here in just a minute. IPv6 is coming to AAD. This is going to give you the ability to use that format starting in March 31, 2023. So if you're a network nerd like some of our guys are, and you want to know about how all this stuff works, there you go. I'll share a link in the notes as well. Just an update that is coming soon. Cross-tenant sync is a big deal that we've been involved with. We actually were involved with the private preview with Microsoft on this, have learned a lot and are already rolling this out for a couple of customers in preview. Who should use this is the big question that everybody wants to ask. Organizations that own multiple Azure AD tenants and want to streamline, if you want to streamline your intra-organization, like cross-tenant application scenarios, this is perfect for you and keeps you from having to necessarily always merge all these tenants, especially sometimes when you need to keep them separate for various reasons, whether it's compliance or other reasons. So like I said, we've done some private preview. We would love to talk to you about how to implement this. It is currently in preview. So we can help you roll out a pilot of this and see if it's something you want to move into when it goes GA. So be aware that is out there now and available. Let's talk a little bit about Exchange Online and some of those updates. PowerShell. I'm a PowerShell geek. I love it. Updates that are coming is that it's some of the other stuff is getting long in the tooth, and so it's going away. As of June 1, if you do any remote PowerShell connections, RPS connections that use these older things like new-PS session or even the old modules like V1 and V2, they are going to be going away. They're going to stop working. So if you've got old scripts that are out there running as scheduled tasks that are doing certain things or all that type of stuff, you need to go through, review those, and update those to the newest stuff, the newer methods of doing that piece. I'll throw a link out in the chat for that as well. Exchange Server 2013 is coming to end of support in April. So if you've got an older Exchange server sitting out there in 2013, you need to get that updated. It's going to work, but it won't be supported. And when you go out of a supported state, and then of course, sure as you do, you'll have trouble just like every time your dishwasher goes out of stops working the minute the warranty expires. So be aware that that's coming. I'll put a link out there as well. And related to that, there's now the ability for you to possibly, if everything lines up for you, to decommission your last Exchange server. So if you maintain an on-premise Exchange server just for recipient management in Exchange hybrid environments, right? If even if you've moved all of your recipients to Exchange Online, all your mailboxes are up in Exchange Online, you may be able to shut down that last Exchange server because we can actually install the Exchange hybrid tools, management tools on a server, and you can simply access those with PowerShell from that side and do a lot of that maintenance there much more simply. I'll throw a link in the chat, but very cool feature that will allow you to decommission that. If you're on the previous thing, you've got 2013 Exchange in play and you don't want to upgrade it and you only use it for this scenario, maybe this is a chance to start putting that in place. So last but not least, let's talk about Unified Endpoint Manager. Some people like to call a piece of that they talk a lot about is Intune. So there is a grace period status that is now going to be available for Android devices. The users will see a date by which the device must be compliant, and they will get instructions on how to become compliant. And if they don't, that device will be marked non-compliant. So we're getting some good feedback here to the end users so they can understand what's expected of them. This is a cool little feature if you've got Android devices running around in your environment. We have a new filter app and policy assignment scenario inside of the devices of AD called join type. It's actually called device trust type inside of the filter property. And this will allow you to begin looking at and filtering devices and apps based on their join type, like Azure AD joined, hybrid Azure AD joined, Azure AD registered, etc., which will give you the ability to force some things on registered devices which aren't fully joined, but you need them to get a certain policy. It'll allow you to begin filtering that out and segmenting those folks off to get a separate policy set and things like that. Very cool tool set coming in play there that gives us much more granularity about controlling which devices are accessing our systems. Lastly, on the Intune side is the new troubleshooting, or the troubleshooting pane inside of Intune has some new updates coming, some new visibility, a little bit more detail. I've even put a note in the bottom of how you can go enable this little preview view that you've got where you can try it now and take a look at it. You'll get that when you see the recording and or get the slide deck. So I think that ties it up for me. I'll throw some links in the chat. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them. I'll answer them as best I can or find somebody who can.